Hey guys, welcome back for another devlog episode. So in this episode, I've been doing some cleaning up of my code already. I know we kind of talked about the scriptable objects last time and how they were getting a little bit jumbled. It was just hard to see exactly what variables needed to be filled out. So I've been working on those first. If you look over here in the inspector, I've got a conversation scriptable object pulled up here. I added headers in the inspector to kind of tell you what each thing is for. And then for things like this where it's an infection value that can only be from 0 to 100, I fixed it so that way it is a range from 0 to 100. So it's on sliders and it can't enter the wrong value. Same with time requirements, they're 0 to 23, and so now the wrong value can't be entered. You couldn't even enter 27, it'll just go back to 23. That way there won't be any errors in the future and it just looks a bit cleaner. You can see I've done the same for a dialogue line. And then as well, I've done it for items. So you've got item data all sorted in the top. Values like that, then whether it can be sold and given away, how many the player has in the inventory, and this will tell you it's only needed for a seed item, what crop will be planted. And it just keeps going on and on. I organized the NPCs the same way. So now you've got Npc Attributes header, you've got the same value sliders here. Conversations are sorted, item preferences are sorted, and then affection variables. And so that's just got those looking a bit more clean, kind of easier to read and easier to make when you know what all the values do. I'm going through also and working on adding tooltips, but those haven't been added each one yet because you can do that in the editor. And I suppose I'll just show you that real quick in the editor just in case you're not familiar with that on Unity. So let's pull up my scripts folder. And we'll pull up the NPC scriptable object in this case. And we'll just give it a moment to load here. Alright, so if you take a look, what I've done, I added this header field. And so it says Npc Attributes. If you look over in Unity, we'll pull an NPC back up real quick. So that's what does this, a bold, just like header up top here, Npc Attributes. You do that just with the header tag, and then you put in parentheses and quotes what you want it to say. Then I've also added these space attributes. They do exactly what you would think, where they just leave a space, just visual line of space on the inspector. And then you've got range. This is what turns the value into a slider. You give it the minimum range and the maximum range, and then it turns it into a slider. The other one I'll show you that I don't have in this script, but we'll just add real quick. The other one I like to use is you can add Tooltip. And we'll just say name of the NPC, save that, let it compile real quick. Now if you mouse over and hold it there, you get the tooltip name of the NPC. So that's what I've been doing. I'm going to continue to go through. I won't tooltip everything, like NPC name obviously was already enough that even if I left the project for a while and came back, I would know what that value meant. So I'm only going to tooltip things that may be iffy, exactly in the scenario I said, where if like you moved away from the project and then came back and wanted to work on it again, would you know what you were asking for? Or if you brought somebody else on the project and they had never looked at your code before, or maybe they were just a designer, they weren't going to do any code, would they know what it was asking for? And so those ones where I think it's kind of iffy, I'll be adding tooltips to just help out a little bit. And so the other thing we talked about a bit is not quite knowing what I was going to work on next. And so that's what we're going to get into now. We'll talk a bit about what I think needs to be worked on next in the game. Alright, so you'll have to excuse my handwriting a little bit, but I thought this would be the best way to visualize and show you what I'm thinking needs to be worked on. So the first thing I'm going to work on, I think, is going to be the, well, let's not grab it up very top. It's going to be the energy system. And so in a game like this, the energy system, what I mean by that is every time you swing a tool, it should use a certain amount of energy based on the tool. So we'll add that first. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to give the item script an energy used value. And so basically each tool can have a different amount of energy they'll use. You'll start with something like an old heavy watering can, and that'll use a lot of energy. As you upgrade it, it will use less and less energy. And then as you skill your player, you'll also have more energy. So what we'll need to do is, before we use a tool, we'll need to just add a check that confirms there's enough energy before you use the tool. If not, it won't let you use the tool. If you do, it will, and it will subtract the tool's energy amount from your total energy. So that's all easy enough. We can just add a check right there in the interaction script I've written. Now in the future, when I've got the game coming together, I'd like to have a system like in Harvest Moon, where basically you'll pass out if you use up too much energy. So as you start to get tired, your guy will play some animations. You know, he'll wipe sweat from his brow, he'll start breathing hard and bending over once he gets real tired, and then finally, if you go over your energy limit for the day, you'll pass out and maybe wake up in the doctor's office or something like that. So we'll get to that later on once we start adding actual maps and things like that to the game. For now, all we'll do is if you don't have enough energy, you won't be able to use the tool. And that will at least help us get the system in place that uses that. So with an energy usage system, that adds another element here, which is consumable items. So they will have a value of energy that is restored. So I'm talking food, medicine, anything like that. You'll eat it and it will restore a certain amount of energy to you. So again, the item script will need a value for amount of energy restored. And then once you eat them, it will also need to restore that amount of energy. It'll do the same thing. It'll check to make sure you're not over your max energy. And if you are, it will only restore you up until that max energy. You can't get past what your max energy is. And this will be a little more difficult since we don't currently have a consume function at all in the script. So we'll need to add the ability to consume items at all. I've already got it set up for items to be considered consumable, but we need a consume function. Alright, and then last but not least, for this system, the other thing we'll need is an energy UI, just to display how much energy you have currently. So that's what I'm going to get to work on today, and I'll keep checking in as I've got updates, as I can show you what I've got done and what I've been working on. So I'll get to it and check back in with you in a little while. Alright, it's update time. I've been working on the energy system a bit here, and so I'll show you what I've done. First, I've got an item pulled up here. You can see it's an equipable item, it's an equipment. So I've added two variables, how much energy is used Only needed if it's an equipable item. So you can see there it uses 30 energy. Then how much energy is restored? Well, that's only for a consumable item. So right here I've got a tomato. That'll restore 50 for now. They're test values. And then I created a new scriptable object for the player. And so as you can see, it's just got the player's name, his farm name. It's got health, although I'm not sure there's going to be combat in the game. I haven't really decided that far out. And then it's got energy values. Alright, and then so I'll show you the scripts real quick here. I added an energy slider script that just gets a reference to the player as well as the slider. And then it updates its value just by dividing the player energy by the max energy. Now the soil script has a interact function that takes the item that's being interacted with and then the interaction manager. So if there's no item, it'll harvest the plant. But if there is an item, now it checks if the player energy is greater than or equal to the item energy usage. And if it is, then it just subtracts that amount from player energy, and then it uses the item. If it's not, the item won't get used. And then we've got our check for interaction script, which is on the player. And all this does, I added, so right here on interact, which means you hit the interact button, it checks if the shop's open, or if the inventory is open. If it is, interaction doesn't happen. Otherwise, it checks if you're talking, and if it is, it goes through the dialogue system instead. Finally, if you can interact and you've got something to interact with, it interacts with it. And this is what I've added. So if you've got you can't interact because there's nothing to interact with, there's no soil to interact with, and you do have an item equipped, then it checks if that item is consumable, and if it is, it consumes it and restores your energy. So we'll take a look and see it all in action here real quick. I'll pull up my inventory. We'll put on the test hoe. You can see I've just added a little slider here right now as the UI, and we'll use it. Alright, so you can see here player energy reduced to 70 and the slider went down. And if you use it again, same thing happens. So then we've got the golden hoe to test out with. You can see that only uses 5 energy each time. We've got a test sickle, which used all of our energy because it uses 25. And now we'll pull out the test watering can. It should not water this soil. And you see it doesn't because we've got no energy. But if I pull out a tomato and I use it, you can see I've got 50 energy now. And there you go, I can water it once again. I am getting a null reference, so let's just see what's going on here. Gotcha. So it destroys the plant when you interact with the sickle with the soil. So we'll need to add a check there to see if the plant's already null, in which case it won't do anything. But you can see now that the energy system's working. If I use a potato, it restores a different amount. Alright, and so that's really it for the energy system, except one thing I forgot to do. We'll add in real quick, because I've already got on the... And this may not be the best spot for it on the soil script, but this already has an interaction for new day, and it already has a reference to the energy script. So what we'll do is we'll just say player.player energy equals player.player max energy. Because we want that to be restored on a new day, and actually we won't keep it there for long, because eventually we will add a sleep function where you go to your bed and you sleep, and that's when it'll restore your energy. It won't get restored just because it's a new day, because on this game it'll be more similar to Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life rather than Stardew Valley, meaning you'll be able to stay up all night Time won't stop at the end of the day. And so if you stay up all night, don't go to sleep, well then we don't want your energy to get restored. So for now, it'll be there, and you can see it did restore to 100 as the day changed to day 2. We'll keep it there for now, but eventually it will go into that sleeping script, and so you'll have to actually go to bed to restore that value. I think that'll make a lot more sense. Anyway, so that's it for now. I've got that energy system working. I'll just let you know. Let me take a look at my notes here, what we will work on next. All right. So let's go ahead and we'll pull back up the whiteboard, and I'll show you what we're working on next here. So the next thing I'm going to add is a selling system. In both Stardew Valley and Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life, and most Harvest Moons for that matter, there is a box, a shipping box, that you put crops into, and then they sell overnight. So on the new day, it checks how much that sold for, and it gives you the money. So shipping box will take the player's held item, if it's tradable. And there's a few things that I'd like to do to probably make this more usable. And so one thing I'm considering is just adding a UI for the shipping box that'll show your inventory, and then it'll ask you the quantity of the item you want to enter into the shipping box. So that way you don't have to do them one at a time. The other option I can add is that when you throw something in the shipping box, if you have another one in your inventory, it will automatically equip it. I think I'm leaning towards that latter option. But I might actually check into Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life and Stardew Valley to see how they handle that, because I actually can't remember. I believe A Wonderful Life uses a UI, but I think Stardew Valley just keeps the item equipped. So I'll take a look. I think that's the option I'm leaning towards, is keeping it equipped after you put one in. So it'll just, if you've got more than one, it'll just subtract one from the value, and then it'll keep it equipped so you can just keep, spamming interact and throw them all into that shipping box. So then the other step to the selling system on new day, add total sold value to players' money. Alright, so that's what we'll get working on next. I'm thinking the way I'm going to get it done is that this shipping box will have a list of items that it holds, and so every time you add an item to the list by throwing it into the box, it will add it to its own list. So then on the new day function, it'll go through its list and add up the value multiplied by the quantity, and then it'll clear the list for the new day, so that way it's empty again. Few problems I foresee is, one, just how to handle the value, the quantity, because currently there's one variable for quantity for items. So let me show you. Right now, with items, I've got right here the count. How many does the player have in the inventory? So it's 94. The thing is, since everything uses the same item scriptable object, like there's only one test ho scriptable object, everywhere that it appears the count is 94. In shops, that doesn't matter because we don't care how many the count is. We just want to buy it from a shop. But when you're selling it, the count all of a sudden does matter. So I might just cheat and add a second variable, which will be the sold count. And that'll be a temporary count that resets daily. And that way, it's basically an easy fix. I think that's how I'll do it. But anyway, I'll get to work and I'll check in with you guys and show you that once I'm there. I'll check in a little while. All right, what's up, guys? I've just gotten off work, so it is night. But I wanted to go ahead and update you guys, show you what I've been working on here. So I decided to take a little break from coding. And so what I did was I went on the asset store and looked for some assets to use for now as temporary assets. Eventually I will start making assets for the game. But so I wanted to go ahead and just give credit to those assets that I grabbed before I show you them. So I'm going to just pull up them in the asset store so I can show you real quick. So the first one I got here was the cartoon farm crops from False Wisp Studios. And I did go through and edit these a bit in Blender so that way they could fit my needs a little better. But the assets were a big help. Next one I grabbed was the Realistic Garden Tools by GB Andrew GB. This is just a set of garden tools. I grabbed these for some inventory icons. So I'll show you, I've got those set up here. And then the last one I've grabbed for now is this medieval chest, just for a shipping chest, just to have something. Although I haven't put that working into the game yet, I'm still working on that. What I did was I took a quick break from coding to work these assets in so I could show you guys a bit better how everything's working. And when that happened, I had to rework how crops work a little bit. So instead of changing the meshes as they grow, I just spawn in a new prefab now. So that way I can use different graphics. So let me go ahead and show you that. What I'm going to do is just load up the player's inventory real quick. Because it's empty from what I was just testing. So let's go ahead and add a few slots to the player inventory. We will go into items. We're going to need some tools. We'll give the test hoe, watering can, sickle, and then we'll take some seeds. We'll do the corn seeds, the turnip seeds, and let's do the eggplant seeds so that way I can show you different growth phases and things like that. So if I hit play, you can see now I've got some temporary inventory icons for all of these. We'll go ahead and equip the hoe, till all three of these real quick, plant corn there, plant turnips there, and lastly we'll plant eggplant here, and then go through and water them. I missed that one before a new day, but it's okay. It won't die just after one day. Alright, and so then as you can see, the eggplant is ready for harvest. If we take that, now I've got an eggplant in the inventory. And if I water it again, it will continue to grow. The turnip is actually ready for harvest as well here, but you'll see if I pick that, the plant's gone. And so I've got turnips in the inventory. Again, don't worry about the numbers here. It got some bugs I've got to go back and fix. And so then finally we'll wait on the corn. And you can see it's grown more eggplants Alright, and then the corn is ready for harvest as well. And you can see the corn is a multi-harvest plant as well, so it goes back to the previous phase. If you water it again, it'll grow some more. And so we've got all those crop systems working. Of course, in the real game, they'll take longer than 5 days to grow, but that's just for testing purposes. As you can see, the turnips only took 2, this one took 3, and then this one took 5 just for testing. And then along with all these inventory icons, that's really what I've gotten done so far using those assets. Again, check those out on the assets store. And I'll check back in with you guys now. I'm going to work on that selling chest. So that way we can sell these crops that we harvest. Alright guys, I'm back with another update. I think this one will be the final one of the episode. We've got the selling system down now. As you can see here, I've got an inventory set up. I've got 6 carrots, 3 corn, and 2 eggplant. And I can show you here if we pull up the script on how it'll work. So it's over here in the inspector for the selling box. What we've got is, let me find it here. We've got this sold items list. You can see it's currently empty. Well, if I go up to it and interact with it, you can see it's got a carrot now, and I did go ahead and make it so carrot was automatically re-equipped since we've got more. So if we put it in here, it's got all 6 carrots. Now I hit enter, nothing happens. We'll add the corn, and you can see also I've got 0 money currently. And then we'll add the eggplant. And now we'll wait for a new day. You can see the list just emptied out. And now when I check my money, it's at 705 because it's sold each of the items that were put into the chest. And so for now, that is a working base selling system. It'll need more work in the future. I think I do want to add a UI, so maybe you can remove items if you accidentally put them in there. Haven't decided on that yet, but definitely once there's a sleeping system, there will be a pop-up UI that shows you how much money you made that day. So we'll work on that in the future. I'm going to go ahead and end the episode here because next time I think we're going to get working on the crafting system. Now I don't know to what extent I want crafting in the game, but I do know I want a recipe system similar to Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life, where as you befriend people and as you search the town, you'll be able to find and make recipes that will make better food for restoring your energy. And so that will involve combining items to make a new item. So it will be setting up and making a crafting system. So I think that's what we'll work on next. In the meantime, thank you all for watching. Please comment with any questions or suggestions and leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one.